What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and the cat's already out of the bag. If you haven't drafted yet, all of your league mates are watching TikTok and YouTube, and they're finding out all of the hot names that they need to be drafting. Do not get caught being too cute and waiting for the player you really want to fall to pick 80 because the number next to his name says 81. That's just not going to cut it. But what is going to cut it is when you go up to make your pick and you select that player and you hear the entire room go, ah, because you sniped him and you got your guy. So today, I am going to give you guys the player you need to snipe your league mates on in every single round. This is my flag plant in every round, and then we're going to talk about the highest range I would take each player. So if you're in a league where you know ADP is going out the window, I am giving you the green light to take player X here. The absolute highest I would draft these players to make sure you get your guy, because a lot of you guys only play in one league. Right? We're not playing the market or the value game. We are building a team that we want to root on every week and win championships with. So as always, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and let's get straight into our first player, the player to snipe your league mate on in round one. We're going to go round by round here. And first we have Jahmyr Gibbs, who is going off the board right now as the 105 as the RB3. But here's the twist with this video. I am going to show you the highest I would take him. For me, Jahmyr Gibbs is my RB1 is my 102. That is the highest I would take him. I love Jamar Chase. To me, he's the clear 101. But as soon as it gets to 102, I am giving you the green light to take Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, I will say, if you have a draft coming up this week or this weekend, make sure you check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. For every single player, very similar to this green light system here, I have a target round for every single player so that you know, okay, when it's this round, Ron is telling you to secure the bag. So again, my top 200 rankings, my target rounds, my targets, my fades, all of these players are going to be bolded in green on the draft guide. You can find that on patreon.com/Ron Stewart. I will have a link down below in the description and the comment section. Now, with Jahmyr Gibbs, why I like him so much, why I would take him as the 102, is because this is a really good player in a good offense. He led all running backs last year with a 10% explosive run rate. He was third lowest in stuff rate, fifth in missed tackles forced per attempt, top 5 in PFF grade. He led all running backs in runs of 15 or more yards. He was top 5 in yards per outrun. Efficiency across the board, explosivity across the board, and he is on the Detroit Lions with the 6th best offensive line by established the run and the 3rd highest scoring offense implied by Vegas. Good player, good offensive line, good scoring environment, in a dome all the time. He already hit 20-plus points per game last year, and he's still ascending into his prime in year 3. Now, I just think that the toothpaste is out of the tube at this point when it comes to him versus David Montgomery. Yes, I get that he's there. I get that he is the elephant in the room, but I just think that this is going to be the widest discrepancy in touches between Montgomery and Gibbs that we've seen so far. We have a new offensive coordinator. We don't know how he's going to operate here, and we just have now at this point a 7-game sample from Scott Barrett here showing that Jahmyr Gibbs averages 31.3 points per game without David Montgomery. 2 of those games, David Montgomery actually got hurt or left early in. So he's just an absolute monster. I think that he is somebody that can get to 22-plus points per game, even with Montgomery in this lineup. He is someone that was the best receiving running back prospect since Christian McCaffrey, right? Bijan's great, and all these other players like Ashton Genty is great, but when it comes to receiving profile, it was Jahmyr Gibbs and Christian McCaffrey. You look at his receiving yard market share over his 3 years in college. I believe it was 2 years at Georgia Tech, 1 year at Bama. Monster in the receiving game. He's only hit 50-plus receptions in the last 2 years. If he can push to 70-plus or 80-plus, which it wouldn't be that shocking given who he was in college, he's still ascending into his prime. We get a new OC that might want to use him more in the passing game, and we're already getting quotes out of camp like from Adam Levitan here. I've seen the Lions start Gibbs in the backfield, motion him to the slot. I've seen him start in the slot lineup at running back. He's run wheel routes, Texas routes, quick outs, slants, and more. I'm not saying that he's going to get a billion fantasy points from playing wide receiver in this offense, but if they do truly prioritize him as a receiving weapon in this offense, then all of a sudden you are looking at 22 to 25 points per game, even in the same backfield as David Montgomery. Then our next player here is going to be Brian Thomas Jr. Now, I will say for all of these players, this is just the consensus, right? So he is the consensus 202 as the wide receiver 8 across ESPN, Sleeper, and Yahoo. Now, the highest I would take him, right? If you are in a draft and you want to be like, I really want Brian Thomas Jr., because I do understand a lot of you guys are only in one league, right? So you might be in a spot where you're at the 109, you really want Brian Thomas. Maybe you're like, oh, the value's not great, but he's not coming back to what is that going to be? The 109, 110, 111, 112. It's like the 204. he's probably not coming back to you. So if you want to make sure you secure Brian Thomas Jr., I'm not saying take him at 109. I'm just saying you have the green light from me if you want to make sure you get Brian Thomas to take him at the 109. And here's why. He has one of the best rookie point per game seasons ever at wide receiver, and rookie year production at wide receiver is one of the best indicators we have since 1998. This is the list of the top 12. OBJ, Randy Moss, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase, Anquan Bolden, Puka, Justin Jefferson, Michael Thomas, Brian Thomas, Mike Evans, Marcus Colston, Julio Jones. It is a who's who of Hall of Famers and fantasy football producers across the board. And Brian Thomas Jr. did this with 7 games of Mac Jones. And on top of that, he had monster efficiency with Mac Jones, which is just unheard of. Brock Bowers, 2.02 yards per out run, which is absolutely fine for a tight end. He had AOC, he had Gardner Minshew, but Brian Thomas Jr. putting up the best yards per out run in this class considering his quarterback situation, 10% plus first downs per out run, 80 plus PFF grade, 24.7% targets per out run. He is really good. And now he finds himself in an upgraded environment with a healthy Trevor Lawrence. You get Liam Cohen in the mix on this offense. And then you also have them projected for top 10 in dropbacks, attempts, and yards. So we are just going to see a lot of receiving volume here. After Brian Thomas, it's Travis Hunter, and it's really nobody else there. Brian Thomas Jr. has the upside to be potentially wide receiver 1 overall. Like, he could get all the targets in this offense. He could get all the efficiency in the world and be the centerpiece of this offense and be a very strong pick. As high as the 109, then we will talk about Omari and Hampton, my favorite pick in round 3, and I give you the green light to take him as high as the 212. This is actually where I have him ranked in my rankings, 24th overall. I think as soon as like your Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor guys are off the board, Omari and Hampton is to me the clear next best running back. Now I know that Najee Harris is feeling great. He got activated off of the IR. Now he's like practicing and everything. I'm just not budging in terms of my Hampton take at this point. The holdup with rookie running backs is that the veteran is going to get the start early on and eat touches early on, but Hampton, to me, avoids that, where he has been the guy in the meeting rooms, the guy on the field taking reps with the ones, and I think that he's already built up enough of a cushion on Najee Harris that at this point, Najee is just the number 2 running back in this offense. Hampton, they took him first round. Najee Harris was a free agent signing. They invested legit draft capital in Hampton here, and he is a really strong prospect, where he is a throwback Ezekiel Elliott type of prospect in terms of 220 plus pounds, 4.4 speed. He is not your Jahmyr Gibbs, 199, like 4.3 speed. He is a throwback bell cow style guy, jumped out of the gym with a 38-inch vertical, 10-foot broad jump. And when we look at first round running backs since Trent Richardson, about half of them have hit 16 plus points per game. That is a threshold you need to hit an RB1 season in points per game, but we've even seen Zeke have a monster year, Saquon have a monster year, even guys like Doug Martin and Leonard Fournette be really, really strong. And I think Hampton has the upside to be something among those lines. Look at his college production, over 1,500 rushing yards in each of the last 2 seasons, over 15 plus touchdowns in each of the last 2 seasons. He also averaged 30 plus receptions in each of the last 2 seasons. So he can do it all. He has the size, the speed, the draft capital. He's tied to Justin Herbert. Yes, they lost Rashawn Slater, but their offense is still projected by Vegas for the 13th most points. So I think it's a really good situation. I think he's going to be the workhorse in this backfield and has all the upside in the world. In the 4th round, give me Kenneth Walker. Now, if you really want Kenneth Walker, I give you the green light to take him as high as the mid-3rd, around 30th overall. Now, when I say mid-3rd, this is assuming 12-team leagues. I included 30th overall for any of you guys out there in 10-teamers or 14-teamers. 30th overall is about as high as I can stomach Kenneth Walker. He is a big target for me as a running back upside pick. Last year, he was the RB7 in points per game before getting hurt in week 13, and people also forget that he was the RB2 in points per game through week 7 with a higher point per game total than Saquon Barkley at that point. He was an absolute monster until injuries effectively killed his season, but that's the discount you're getting here. Yes, there's injury risk. Yes, there's downside risk, but if he had never gotten hurt last year, he would be a 2nd-round pick in fantasy. You're now getting him in the 3rd to 4th round of your drafts. He is somebody that on these charts, he just absolutely breaks them, where he, in terms of missed tackles forced per attempt, nobody was touching him last season. And he's also a great fit in this Clint Kubiak offense, where if we look from Jacob Gibbs here, Alvin Kamara is ripping off explosives in this run design early in the season, posting his highest explosive rush rate since 2020. Walker has averaged 4.4 yards per zone rush compared to 3.8 on non-zone rushes, averaging 4.7 yards on outside zone runs. Kubiak's Saints, ranked third with a 46% outside zone run rate. For his career, Charbonnet has just a 3.7-yard average on outside zone runs. On non-zone runs, Charbonnet averages 4.4 yards. So this really sets up well for Kenneth Walker's run style as opposed to Charbonnet's. And we also, if you want a little bit of narrative talk, we have the pivot having on JSN, and they're talking about this offense and what to look out for. He calls Kenneth Walker his bread and butter, and then the entire room kind of waxes poetic about how good Kenneth Walker is and can be. And the final thing that I'll leave you with is that he is a running back heading into year 4. When we did our legendary running back upside video research, we found that year 4 is kind of the hotbed for running backs. It really is years 2 through 4, but year 4 has been the most common year for 22 plus points per game. I'm not saying that Walker's going to hit 22 plus points per game, but if he is going to have his best season of his entire career, it's going to be this year. And I could really see monster upside with Walker. Now, before we get into our 5th player here, make sure you're subscribed. Only about 50% of you guys are subscribed when you're watching these videos. If I show up in your feed and you watch, and then maybe you forget to subscribe or you thought you were subscribed, just go down below, check, subscribe, leave a like, all that good stuff. But let's talk about our 5th round flag plant here, Xavier Worthy, who I give you the green light to take as high as the 3-4 turn, around 36 overall. This is a wide receiver going into year 2 with breakout upside, and I just want to bet on this Chiefs passing offense. There's just no way that they want to run back the same formula as last year where they are miserable, they're eking out wins by 3 points and a field goal, and they're relying on this Kareem Hunt rushing game, and it's just an ugly brand of football. It's so far removed from what Andy Reid and Mahomes were doing earlier on in Mahomes' career. And I just think after getting blown out by the Eagles in the Super Bowl, there's no way that they come back to the drawing board and are like, yeah, let's run back what we did in 2024. So I think that we could see Mahomes bounce back in a big way. And if he does, 1 or 2 of these pass catchers are going to go absolutely nuts. Mahomes in any given year is live to lead the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns, win an MVP. This year, if this offense crushes, it's going to be because of Xavier Worthy. And if you look at what he did down the stretch last year, it is super underrated, where he went from 18% targets per out run, 1.24, 7% first downs per out run. Really not good across the board during the regular season, but over his last 7 games, we have a 209 route sample. That's actually pretty large. He had a 24% targets per out run, 2+ yards per out run, the highest first downs per out run among all of these rookies, and an 84.3 PFF grade where he averaged 21.6 points per game over that span. And if you just want to bet on the idea that he found his stride in the NFL and this is who he can be moving forward, I think a 5th round price tag is absolutely worth it right there. And again, if you want to lock him up, I think 3-4 turn makes a lot of sense. I think we would also think about Xavier Worthy a little bit differently if he connected on more deep throws with Mahomes. This is from Graham Barfield here, saying just 41% of Worthy's targets of 20+ yards downfield were catchable, which was 37th among 46 wide receivers. I'm not going to bet that Mahomes is just now a bad thrower of the football. There's just no way. He is one of the greats. He is up there with Tom Brady. I think that he is going to bounce back in a pretty massive way this season. Then, in the 6th round, I like Travis Hunter, and I give you the green light to take him as high as the 4-5 turn around pick 45. This is somebody who was my wide receiver 1 in this class. He is elite across the board. Before the catch in terms of perception, 92nd percentile versus man, 97th percentile versus zone, 97th percentile versus press. At the catch point, 95th percentile contested catch rate. After the catch, 94th percentile missed tackles forced per reception in terms of my database of all of my college wide receiver prospects. It is absolutely bonkers what he was doing as someone that played both ways and was getting his routes signaled in from the sideline. And just, I am in awe of what Travis Hunter did in college and what he can be in the NFL if he puts his mind to playing offense. And that's what it seems like they are leaning in Jacksonville. When we look at what the reports are right now, they are saying that he's going to be full-time on offense, ease in on defense. And if he is going to be the slot receiver for Liam Cohen, it is wheels all the way up. We talked about it with Brian Thomas. There's going to be tons of pass attempts in this offense. And Travis Hunter, about 50% of his snaps during the preseason came out of the slot. And when we see Liam Cohen's past history, 2021, Wan'Dale Robinson over 100 receiving yards per game. Cooper Kupp, really good in 2022. Of course, he was hurt at some point in that year. And then 2024, Chris Godwin was a monster as well before he got hurt. I think Travis Hunter in the slot role in this offense could be a really nice pick in fantasy drafts. Then I'll give you Mark Andrews. Now, I will say he's a 7th round pick by consensus at the 704 as the tight end 7. I'm not taking him higher than 7th round. There's no reason to. No one's going to beat you to the punch, right? Like Travis Hunter's a guy where he has a ton of buzz and he's a really fun player. No one is going to sprint to beat you to Mark Andrews. And if they want to draft him in the 5th round, so be it. But I think in the 7th round is fair for Mark Andrews, where if you haven't taken a tight end yet and it makes sense to grab one, why not Mark Andrews? Last year per route, he was pretty good. Tight end 4 in first downs per out run, tight end 6 in yards per out run, tight end 7 in points per game. Only the tight end 17 in targets per out run. But in terms of efficiency per route, he was really, really strong. This is from Fantasy Points here. 6th best fantasy point per route run leaders, only on plays with a catchable target, behind only A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, and George Kittle. He was very good per route. It just comes down to whether or not he can run enough routes. And the reason why he wasn't running enough routes last year is that he had a cracked fibula. He had the tightrope surgery that killed Tony Pollard's 2023. We saw him bounce back last year. And then also he got in a car accident before the season. So he only had 3 games of 70% or more of the routes. That is the threshold we want to see at tight end. But then he hit 70% plus of the routes in both playoff games. So late in the season, when everything mattered, Mark Andrews became a full-time player in the passing game. Assuming that it was an injury that was holding him back last year, he should be fully healthy this year, and we could see him be a full-time player, especially with Isaiah Likely starting the season banged up. Now, I don't think Mark Andrews is washed. When we look at Ryan Heath's charts from his research on age curves, year 8, which is the year that Mark Andrews is going into, should be about his career baseline in terms of just being in the middle of his prime as a tight end. So it shouldn't be a massive fall off. I think Mark Andrews still has another good year or two left in the tank. And then in the 8th round, my favorite player is Emeka Egbuka. But in your home league, he's not going to go in the 8th round. Everybody is pumping him up. I give you the green light to take him as high as the 5-6 turn, as high as the 55th overall pick in your draft. I just can't shake the idea that Emeka Egbuka could be the next Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase level 16 plus, 17 plus point per game producer. I guess Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas would fit in there. I think that he could be that style of rookie year breakout. When we look at how he graded in my prospect model, he came out only behind Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, JSN, Travis Hunter, as a better wide receiver prospect by the numbers than Tedero McMillan, Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy, Rome Odunze. You can see across the board, he crushed it in film score, breakout score, athleticism, efficiency score, program quality. The only thing he doesn't have is early declare, but I don't think that that matters in the modern NFL. And I just can't shake the idea that maybe he was a little bit pigeonholed in college due to how talented these wide receiver rooms were, right? We're talking about Jeremiah Smith and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Olave and Garrett Wilson. And when you look at the reports coming out of camp at this point, they're all raving about Emeka Egbuka. Baker says in this clip that Egbuka can play all 3 wide receiver spots, that he filled in for Mike Evans on Mike Evans' off day at X wide receiver. And to me, that signals that we could be in for something special here. This is from Reception Perception, 92nd percentile win rate versus press. Of course, 82nd percentile versus zone. So he's very good against zone. He could just be a very fine, somewhere between JSN, Chris Godwin, Amon-Ra St. Brown on the really good slot receiver spectrum. But that press number signals to me that he could be a better complete receiver than we think. And if we get Egbuka usage inside and out in this offense with a banged up Godwin, a banged up Jalen McMillan, we could be talking about somebody that is a true league winner this season. So if you want to take him as high as the late 5th round, you absolutely can with Emeka Egbuka. Then my favorite player in the 9th round as the 9-12 as the wide receiver 49 going off the board is Josh Downs. Now I would take him as high as 84-ish off the board at the 7-8 turn, and that's because that's about where he goes on Underdog. And I would really recommend trying out Underdog, getting some drafts in, seeing where these players go, because you're going to see Josh Downs go at the 7-8 turn, and then you're going to get into your draft room in the late 9th round. Josh Downs is going to be there, and then bells will go off in your head. It's time to draft Josh Downs. So make sure you check out Underdog. Use promo code RON. Play $5. You will get up to $50 in bonus funds in your account. I'll have links to that in the description. and the comment section down below. But with Josh Downs and why I like him so much, I just think that he is a really good player. When we look at where he lines up in terms of first downs per out run, he is in this mix with Ladd McConkey and Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb and Brian Thomas and Justin Jefferson and Malik Neighbors. And then across the board, 85 plus PFF grade, 27.9% targets per out run, 2.2 yards per out run. Considering the quality of quarterback play from last year, that is just absolutely crazy for a second-year player. And I think that Daniel Jones is going to be a big help to him as well. When we look at the Josh Downs splits from last year, without A-Rich, he was at 14.4 points per game. With A-Rich, he was at about 12.2. We are going to see Daniel Jones, who is someone that likes to check the ball down to guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, really feed Josh Downs and make him a PPR stud. I think we're also going to see more volume than expected here. This is from Bush over at the Fantasy Football Stock Exchange. You can see when Anthony Richardson isn't playing quarterback for Shane Steichen, they pace for around 600 plus pass attempts, whether that was with Gardner Minshew or Joe Flacco. And if that's the case, then Josh Downs has a really high year 3 breakout upside potential. In the 10th round, I like Cam Scatterbo. He goes at the 1001 as the RB36, and I give you permission to take him as high as the 8-9 turn, around 96th overall. This is somebody that I'm really targeting in drafts right now. He is one of the best day 3 running back prospects I've ever seen in terms of the NFL Next Gen Stats prospect model that just takes into account your athleticism and your production. No draft capital in this model. It's good enough to give Genty a 95. It has Scatterbo as the RB2. I'm not saying that he is the RB2. I'm just saying that on paper, when you take out draft capital, he's a very strong prospect. He's 219 pounds. He caught 45 balls last year. If you look a little bit deeper, too, from Jacob Gibbs, he goes toe-to-toe with Genty in scrimmage yards per game, rushing success rate, avoided tackle rate, and he actually scales up his play versus better opponents at Arizona State. He has goal line upside at 219 pounds. He has pass catching upside. And this is a team that invested in him in the early 4th round. If they liked Tyrone Tracy that much, they wouldn't have done that. They would have waited until the 6th round, the 7th round, and just gotten a body. Tyrone Tracy, they didn't commit to him in the passing game. He only ran 60% or more of the routes in 5 games last year. That's about the threshold you want for a passing down running back. They wouldn't commit to him. He had, I believe, the 2nd most fumbles in football last year. On top of that, we already have in the preseason him getting stuffed at the goal line from Hayden Winks here, and then Devin Singletary comes in. Cam Scatterbo has over 10 pounds on both of those running backs. We could see him get a really fun, high-value touch role here as the goal line back, the passing down back, and just be somebody that you can start in fantasy football as a stud in your RB2 spot. And then we'll talk about players going outside of the top 10 rounds by consensus. Bill Krosky-Merritt we'll mention first, because that's one of the biggest questions I get. He is the hot name right now. And the thing that everyone has to understand is don't fight the current. When somebody rises like this late in the offseason, it's for a good reason. He's getting all the buzz in the world out of camp, and then they actually do the thing, and they trade Brian Robinson. You can say whatever you want about Chris Rodriguez or Austin Eckler. Bill is the one getting all of the buzz. He is the one shooting up draft boards in high-stakes leagues that we play in and stream every night. I've seen him go as high as like the 7th round in those. So for me, I give you the green light to take him as high as the 8th round. We see guys hit late steam like this, like Kyron Williams in 2023, like Jordan Mason last year, where they just end up being really good for fantasy football, and it's better not to fight against the current, but just accept that when these players rise, they usually don't rise high enough. And I want to say that that's something that Ben Gretsch has talked about for a while. I've been looking for that article, but I couldn't find it. But he's done research on these late risers in ADP in late August. A lot of the times they don't rise quite enough because there is this, well, I'm not going to buy into the hype of this new guy. Usually it's for good reason. So for Bill, if you want the go-ahead to take him, I think in the 8th round, if you need an RB2, he makes a lot of sense. Then give me the Jaguars guys. I like Basil Tootin. I like Trevor Lawrence. Of course, I've talked about them a bunch in the sleeper videos, so I won't bore you with this too much. But right now, we have a quote from Jaguars beat reporter John Shipley saying, I believe the Jaguars will look to unload one of their veteran backs. That could be ETN. That could be Tank Bigsby. That could open up a pathway for Basil Tootin to be a really fun fantasy producer where he's this freak athlete that James Gladstone, the new GM, sold the owner that he was going to take Tootin as part of his plan. He is part of this new regime. Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne are just kind of left over from the guys who were last in the building. So I think Tootin down the stretch could be a really good player. Trevor Lawrence is just going way too late in drafts right now. I would take him as high as the 12th round as like my QB1 or QB2. if I'm taking Lawrence, I'm always taking 2 quarterbacks. So if you take Burrow, Lamar, Allen, all those guys, do not take Trevor Lawrence. I'm not telling you to do that. But we just saw Baker Mayfield have a career year with Liam Cohen. Enter Liam Cohen for Trevor Lawrence. You get Brian Thomas Jr. in year 2. You get Travis Hunter. On top of that, Trevor Lawrence has already produced as the QB12 and the QB13 in points per game in 2022 and 2023. He has a high rushing ceiling as well, where he's already hit 20-plus rushing yards per game in a season before. So he could give you some rushing production on the ground, some high-end quarterback efficiency, and be pretty much a league winner as a late-round quarterback. And then I'll also give you, of course, Luther Burden, who I give you permission to take as high as the 10th round, along with Basil Tutin in the 10th round. Luther Burden is a really strong prospect. We look at my model from earlier. Burden is up there ahead of Xavier Worthy, ahead of Rome Odunze, ahead of Matthew Golden, ahead of Ladd McConkey as a really strong wide receiver prospect taken inside of the top 40 as a stud in a new place. Things change in the NFL. We just saw a few months ago, Emeka Egbuka was in a crowded wide receiver room, right, with Godwin and Jalen McMillan and Mike Evans. Things happen in the NFL. DJ Moore could get traded. Players on that team could get hurt. Luther Burden could just be such a talented player that he is one of the 1 or 2 best players in that wide receiver room. You just have to think big with these players. And if you're taking a swing in the 10th round, he's an upside pick. If you got to cut him after a few weeks, you cut him. If he looks amazing in yards per out run and targets per out run and all the metrics we look at in the rookie receiver report, then he's someone worth keeping that could be a monster down the stretch of the fantasy football season. But that is going to do it for us today. Hope that made sense, right? Those are my favorite players. We did 1 per round, and then I give you, okay, if you really want to make sure you get this player, you can take him as high as this. Now, of course, I'm trying to get followers. I'm trying to get value. So, you don't have to reach on every single player, but I know some of you guys are in 1 league. That's your only team. And if you really want a Emeka Egbuka or something on your team, I tried to give you the range that I would pay the highest possible price to get him on my team. But as always, if you want that for all of your players, right, I have target rounds for every single player, my top 200 over on Patreon. Check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart. I'll have links down below in the description and the comment section where you can see my targets, where all the players we just talked about are bolded in green on the cheat sheet. There's tiers, there's target rounds for every single player, so you can see even the players I don't like, what round would I take them in. But again, you can find that patreon.com/Ron Stewart if you have a draft coming up here this week or this weekend. But if you've already drafted, if you can't support there, just leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, oh, oh.